Hello friends, welcome to episode 98 of the Shauna Stitches Podcast. I'm Shauna and this is where I talk about all the crafty things that I've been working on lately. Today is September 29th, 2024. It is 10:42 a.m., so a nice mid-morning. I think I'm awake. I've had one cup of coffee. I have another one right here with me. And yes, let's talk about what I've been working on. It has been actually 3 weeks since my last podcast, and that's because some life stuff got in the way, but I will talk about that later. There's links down below to everywhere you can find me. That includes Ravelry. I have both my Ravelry projects and my Ravelry group listed. The group hasn't really been used a lot lately, but I have been posting links to the videos when they go up. So if it is easier for you to chat with me there than it is here or what have you, you can show me pictures there, then feel free to do that. There's also an Ask Me Anything form link that if you click that, it'll take you to a Google Doc or Google form, something like that. And you can fill it out if you have any burning questions for me. There's also a link to my Instagram, which is also Shauna Stitches. And I do have an email, shaunastitchespodcast@gmail.com. And I have my Goodreads linked. So if any of those give you more information that you're looking for, just go ahead and click the link. I do have specific links to all of my projects down below as well, and in those you will find sometimes pretty extensive notes, at least some minimal notes. If for some reason I don't answer the question that you have, reach out and I'm more than happy to assist. Okay, I had 3 finished objects because it's been 3 weeks, I guess. My first finished object are my autumn rainbow socks, Desert Vista Dyeworks. I had to think there for a minute. I said in the last one I was going to show you all 4 of the seasons together, but my other 3 seasons are in the bedroom where my husband's currently sleeping. He works night shift, so I'm not going to go get those. But I did just do a little photo collage of all 4 of them together, so I'll put that up here so you still get the idea. All 4 are done in the Blueberry Waffles pattern, knit on 2.25 millimeters needles, 9-inch circulars, Chiagus, 64 stitches, heel flap and gusset. I think that's about it. So I'm very happy to have these done. That is 9 of the 12 months for the year finished. The next finished object I have is a really fun one. This was a test knit that I showed you last time. It is now finished. This right here is a cowl. I'm not sure what the finished name is going to be. I'm calling it the Skulls Cowl because there are actually 3 skulls all the way around. Such a cool design. I really enjoyed this. Color work does slow me down, but there was something about this. I just wanted to get to the next row, next row, next row. And seeing the face come alive was really awesome. I started at the bottom, and so I think when I showed it to you, there was just that much. You couldn't tell at all what it was going to be. And as I knit, it came alive. And it's definitely a little bit bigger than life size, but it's quite huge. I don't want to put this on because I don't want to screw up my hair, but it fits really well. It fits over the head, scrunches down around the neck. You can't really tell what it is, but if you happen to pull it up over your face, it's kind of creepy and cool. Perfect for the spooky season we have coming up. This was a test knit for Neil James, a blocked magazine, and it should be coming out in the very next issue, so look out for that. It will be free if I didn't already say that. So a fun one. I highly recommend. I do wonder, what colors would you knit that in? I think that the undyed and the gray look pretty cool, but I'd be curious to know if you have other thoughts. Actually, a glow in the dark yarn could be really cool. Just thinking of Halloween night and going out and scaring some kids. I wouldn't do that, but I'm sure somebody would. Okay, oh, the next one I'm wearing. This is my melting pot sweater. It is finished. here's actually kind of what the fabric looks like. I met up with somebody and went to a fiber festival, and I'll talk about that more later, but she got to see this in person and she told me it looks way better in person than it does on video or even on just a picture. And I really don't know how to rectify that. And I agree, what I can see on my screen, it just doesn't look the same. But like if I show you that, you know, it's hard to show you. If it's more of a close-up, you can really see. And even in person from a distance, it looks really good. I got a lot of compliments on it at the Fiber Festival, so that's always a little confidence booster. But I'm going to move the camera back. I will cut this part out, and then we will skip forward to the part where you can see kind of the whole sweater. I'll go ahead and apologize now. I am wearing sweatpants. It's Sunday. I'm relaxed, but I wanted to show off my sweater. So ignore the bottoms. All right, hopefully you're seeing the whole sweater now. Sorry for the background. This is reality. I have my spinning stuff over here and some quilting stuff here. So anyway, you can see, I think it's a pretty good fit. I was a little nervous about the positive ease, but once I blocked it, I feel like that came out really good. It's not too clingy. It was very clingy here, which I don't like. Does anybody like clingy there? I don't know, probably not. So yeah. Anyway, let me sit back down and I will tell you some thoughts. All right, I'm sat back down. So what I have to say about this pattern, I feel like the neckline on me is just a little bit big. It doesn't show my bra strap or anything, but also I was one of the very first people to knit the pattern after it came out. And so my neckline is actually one size bigger than it was supposed to be. There had been a number missing from the pattern, and so essentially it was the first number for the smallest size, and I was knitting the third size. So with that number missing, the third size was really the fourth size. I realized that pretty quickly once it finally gave me stitch counts for my size where that first number wasn't missing. So I can't remember how I rectified it. It was very easy to do, but this would be a little less wide if I had cast on the right number of stitches. But I don't mind it, and certainly it wasn't enough for me to go back and rib back. I did more ribbing than called for in both the sleeve cuffs and the bottom hem. It was only supposed to be like 4 rounds of ribbing, and I doubled that. Now I do get some flipping up of the bottom hem, and I'm not sure if that's because the yarn that I used is slightly thinner. It's just a light fingering weight instead of the others I think are more of a true fingering weight. The blue might even be a heavier fingering weight. But they all worked well together. I would just say that this was the lightest one. So the bottom, it flipped up pretty bad before blocking, much better after blocking. But that's kind of like, I would say, my trouble area, or the area I don't really like to draw attention to, and then it's kind of drawing attention to it, in my eyes anyway. Probably no one else is seeing that, but I'm just hypercritical of it. So yes, overall, I'm really happy with it. If I were to knit this again, I'm happy with the ease, but I knit this on a 3.75 millimeter needle. It called for a 3.5. I think I would try going up to a 4 for just a little bit more ease. I could go up a pattern size, but I just think one needle size would just be perfect. So that's kind of my thoughts. I would definitely make this sweater again. I would really like to do the long sleeves. I had about, oh gosh, now I can't remember how much yarn I had left. I think I had about 10 grams each. So I could have done a little bit longer sleeves. And actually, if I was doing it again, I probably would have done one more repeat of the colors, which I definitely had enough for. I don't dislike the length. I was just going for a 3/4 length anyway, but I think just to there would have been nice. So yeah, very happy with that. The pattern is by Alina, Appasova, and it's linked down below. All right, let's talk about some works in progress. I have a whole bunch over here, and they're kind of all over the place. So, in fact, 2 of them are sharing the same project bag because I couldn't be bothered to get another one out. The first one is a very old languishing whip. This is the Rhinebeck Roomies pattern by Litton, the Crazy Sock Lady. The yarn is Candy Skein Luscious Fingering. It was her December 2022 monthly colorway, and she's no longer dyeing anymore, so this is extra special yarn. I started these in actually November of 2022 because she had the color out in her store early, and I love it. I love Christmas colored yarns. But as you see, I didn't make much progress, and when I picked these up again, I still didn't make much progress. I finished a few repeats. If you look close, you see what looks like little bars right across there. Those are really uncomfortable for me to knit. And I don't know, because I haven't tried this on. I feel like there's a good amount of stretch. I feel like it should be able to get over my leg. I mean, that looks pretty decent. I don't have the hugest legs, but I mean, you do want stretch. So I think it's going to be okay. I just really have to power through. This is sock number 1. I thought that I was going to work on this instead of casting on another sweater, but I didn't get far. And I would really like to finish those because I keep hearing how squishy and comfortable and fantastic that pattern is. But I need to figure out a way to do those stitches that does not kill my hands. So the next project that got just a tiny bit of love, such a small little project. This is also very old. I want to say like October or November of 2022. This is also Candy Skein. And actually, I need to remember to put this one on my notes. I might forget. If I do, it is on Ravelry, but I didn't realize, or I didn't even remember that I did a couple rows until I was gathering up my whips, and it was sitting right there. So my thought for this was, I should probably tell you the pattern. The pattern is Sockhead Cowl. I love that cowl. If you've watched before, you know I've probably made, I bet, at least 4 of them. It's kind of like a muscle burrow hat, except there is no bottom and there is no top, as in you don't have to do increases and decreases. So you do about 4 inches of ribbing, then you do all stockinette, and you do another 4 inches of ribbing to round it out. You can use an entire skein. It's absolutely perfect. And I do remember when I bought this yarn, my husband and I went out for a date night, and I didn't bring a project with me, and we had stopped by to see my friend at the yarn store, and I just thought I would get a little project. So I bought the needles there, I bought the yarn, I bought everything, and was able to knit on it when we went out to have drinks. So anyway, where was I going with that? Anyway, I did a few rounds. My thought was I needed something to take to the movies because my husband and I went to see Beetlejuice. And I think this is the first movie I've gone to see since before COVID, which is crazy. I don't know. I don't love going to the movies. I used to like it okay, but my husband really just likes Marvel and DC movies, and I can't do it anymore. It's not my genre. I don't love it. No offense to you if you do love it. I'm happy that he likes it. I just have decided I'm not going to those anymore. I'm not having fun. Anyway, we went to see Beetlejuice, and I wanted a project to work on. This was 2x2 ribbing, and I just decided it would not be the easiest thing to work on in a dark movie. So I looked through my stash and kind of put out something on Instagram asking people what should I work on during the movies. I didn't want to cast on another pair of socks because I have socks, and if I was going to, I didn't necessarily want them to be vanilla, which would defeat the whole purpose. So one of my old projects from when we used to go to the movies more frequently was a project that I mishmashed a bunch of other projects, just kind of came up with on my own, and I called it my cinema cowl. And for that, I used 2 different self-striping yarns, knit all one skein, and then knit the other skein. It's a big long tube. I Kitchenered them together, and it's a cowl. So I don't know why I didn't think of that. Other people recommended things on Instagram, but nothing that really caught my attention. And then I remembered this. So I cast on another one. And as you can see, I did not get very far. Literally not very far into the movie at all. I knew I dropped a stitch, and I just quit. I just set it aside it was kind of difficult to continue to watch the movie without my knitting, especially knowing it was sitting right there. But I actually really did enjoy the movie, and I did not want to take a bathroom break. My husband did take a bathroom break, and he missed kind of a big part. So anyway, I thought the movie was fun and funny, and Beetlejuice is one of the movies that I watched the most as a kid. It's so funny watching it back as an adult because I'm surprised my parents let me watch that. It's pretty inappropriate for children, but all that stuff went right over my head, so I guess it didn't do too much damage. This is the yarn. It is Wisdom Yarns Naked Sock in the color 103, which is called Sweetly. I have 2 skeins of this, so it's going to be literally all this color. It's not going to change like my first one. The reason I chose this yarn, it has been in my stash for such a long time. I remember distinctly buying this at a yarn shop that was going out of business when I was very first getting into knitting. I was already a crocheter. I knew that I wanted to knit socks. I wanted sock yarn, and this is called Naked Sock, so that should work, right? It has no wool in it whatsoever. In fact, let's see. It's 93% acrylic and 7% PBT. I do not know what PBT is. I'm wondering if it isn't something stretchy because this yarn has, I've had others where it's really elastic and that's just weird. So maybe it's not that, but 100 grams is 470 yards. So that will be a nice big cowl. So now I have something ready to go, ready to work on in the movies, and hopefully next time I will not drop a stitch. I really don't know why that happened, maybe because the project is just so small at this point. But that is that. Okay, what else do we have? Oh yes, we have my Mabel sweater. This is really coming along nicely. The hard part is I literally have 3 balls of yarn attached right now, which is a lot. One I'm not using, but it's attached to the body, and then I am alternating 2 on my sleeves. I'm pretty sure I showed this to you as a new cast on, but I can't quite remember. And I know I have done just a ton of work on it since then. So there is the front. There's a little bit better what the yarn looks like. It is so hard to get an accurate photo, but I have finished the first sleeve. I'm a little bit worried about my yarn because I'm using a much bigger needle than called for. This calls for a 3.25 millimeter, and I'm using a 4 millimeter because I swatched with a 3.5 and my swatch was still very much not on gauge. So instead of re-swatching, I just went up a bunch of needles, and I'm a little worried about that because all I've done is steam block this so far. And right now it's fitting. I have a picture where the sleeve is almost finished. It's probably about right here, and I will pop that in so you can see. And I think that is a really good color representation as well, especially against my skin. But you can see I've started the second sleeve. So I cast on with 1 skein. I did all the ribbing, or maybe I did alternate. Anyway, I did alternate up here for a bit, and then once I split for the sleeves, I was just using 1 color. I took that first skein and I split it into 2 for the sleeves. So where it ended at the sleeve split, I was able to continue using that color. I'm not even sure if it's necessary. If I'm being honest, this looks so cohesive. The skeins seem very cohesive because they're tonal. I feel like it probably wasn't necessary, but I just didn't want to end up with any weird lines in there. So I think that's working out. Anyway, I did split that first ball into 2, which ended up being roughly 22 grams. And then just alternated that throughout the arm. Ended up running out right about here, and so all that is just 1 color. So can you tell a difference between up here on the sleeve where it's 2 colors and down here where it's 1? I don't think so. But again, like I said, better safe than sorry. This whole sweater is some variation of 1x1 ribbing. It's a lot of ribbing. So if you don't like ribbing, this is probably not the sweater for you, but I'm actually really enjoying it. I don't find it to be too difficult to work on. I do have to keep track of what row I'm on because that is not the most evident when you're looking at it, but once you've knit a bit, you can kind of tell. I did do a tubular bind off on the neck, which looks really nice, but I did not get, I mean, it is stretchy. It's just not as stretchy as the normal bind off I do, but it looks so much nicer. So this just fits over my head. I cannot be wearing my glasses when I do that, and I have to like get it around my bun just right, but it fits, so I'm not worried about that. But on the sleeve, I wasn't sure what to do. Do I revert back to my normal stretchy cast off, bind off, or do I try the tubular? So I ended up sticking with the tubular. I just made sure that I did not pull the yarn so much, and this is super stretchy. This is what I should have done with the neckline. I really like this. I will do this again for sure. My biggest hesitation was, do I do this around the hips? And as long as I stick to this tension, I will be absolutely fine around the hips. You just obviously don't want that part restricted at all. So I'm able to push this up my arm. It's a fully long sleeve sweater, so I can get it up on my forearm and probably even up to my bicep if I really want to push it that far. So that will work. What else to say? You know, I'm kind of bummed because I'm on such a roll on this, you know, and Sleeve Island is a real thing. Now that October is literally 2 days away, I'm obviously not going to be able to finish the sleeve or the body. And October 1st, I'm going to be casting on my October Desert Vista Dyeworks socks. That's the color I've picked. I love this. It's called Kooky Halloween. So for once, it's not self-striping, and I'm actually very excited about that. It's going to be variegated with mostly black and then just these pops of color: orange, pink, neon green, purple. Oh, it's so pretty. I bet this might glow under a black light too. Not that I have one or that I'm going to be in a situation, but I bet it does. So anyway, so I have to cast that on October 1st. And then on October 3rd, the Stephen West Cowl is starting. You can see I've used 2 of my shawls for decoration today, and I'm getting in the Cowl spirit. That being said, I don't think this is going to get any work on it in October. Maybe, just maybe, it might towards the end of the month. But as we get to the end of the month with the Cowl, usually those are the biggest clues. So I'm not really sure, but I do want to finish this by November 30th. And as long as I'm done with the Cowl around the end of October or very beginning of November, I should be able to get this done. The reason for the November 30th date is that that is when the Hohi Fall Cowl 2024 ends, and I would like to have this as a submission. I wasn't even going to participate until this sweater came out, and it just captivated me. So that has been fun and just challenging enough, although there are times where I just yearn for that stockinette. I am able to still do that while reading though, and that makes me very happy. Okay, one more work in progress to show you. This one was also another very impromptu project. And it's kind of difficult to get over here. This is large. This is a mess. Let's see if we can get the yarn out of the way. Let's talk about yarn first. So I'm using some stash yarn. I have 2 skeins of pink and 1 skein of coral. These are a worsted weight acrylic. Let's see, this is Lime Brown Pound of Love in pink. And this one is Bernat Baby Solids in Coral Crocus. No idea if any of these are still available. They are very old stash, back from when I mostly did crochet. It's been a lot of years ago, really before the podcast. So it's time to get that yarn used up. I have here a diagonal, corner to corner, garter stitch blanket, start of one anyway. And what prompted me to cast this on was last night several knitters got together on a YouTube live and we cast on this blanket. Now there were 3 official teams. I'm not going to remember everyone. You had Tabitha from Cabot Cove Knits and Neil James from Blocked as one team. You had Ann Pinkova and Liz Clothier on another team. And then you had Amy from Two Sisters and Some Yarn and DK as a team. So there were 3 teams, and their goal was to, in the 4-hour live, which I think there was only 3 hours of knitting during that time, but their goal was, it was called the Half Blanket Challenge, and between them, they both needed to finish some half of a blanket to be the winning team. I don't know. I probably have not explained that very well. I was not on a team. I was there by myself. And I was really disappointed about how many stitches I was able to get done. I cast on a little bit earlier than they did because I was at home, and I cast on exactly at 3 p.m. They did a lot of talking and stuff, and I was like, I'm going to get a head start. I thought for sure I would get to the halfway point, which the halfway point is getting to 100 stitches on the needle. I only got to 82 stitches. Everyone on the teams beat me. Every single one, even the ones who consider themselves slow knitters. That is very frustrating because I am not a slow knitter. I don't know how many stitches I can do in a minute, but I do know that I am faster than that. The problem is, look at this chunky needle. This is a US 13 9mm needle, Chiagu. This cable is like a bike lock cable. It's so huge. And yes, 2 strands of worsted and 1 strand of DK together, which should be somewhat near a super bulky, which is what everyone was using. I don't know. I feel like my fabric is very dense. I don't have any super bulky to compare it with in my stash at all. So when I did a gauge swatch, I had just done the 2 strands of worsted, but someone said that wouldn't be enough. So I'm wondering if this is not too thick because I am struggling to move it on my needles. I'm struggling to knit this. Last night, I knit the entire thing, probably till about there, all in continental, which I do not knit continental. I am a English flicker, but I was having a struggle flicking the yarn up as high as I needed to around this needle because it's just ginormous. After the live, I did switch to that. I'm able to do it, but it's still really slow. So what I've learned from this, and I will finish it because it's going to be a donation to Let Them Live, an organization that helps mothers who are struggling with their pregnancy. So I think it's a worthy cause. I'm just hoping maybe next year they do crochet. I will not do this again. I just won't. It's very uncomfortable. I'm going to power through this one. Since this morning, I made it to the halfway point, so I am now officially decreasing. I think I have 98 stitches on the needle right now. So I have to work my way back down to 3. The good news is each row should be just a little bit quicker than the last. That is all of the works in progress that I have to show you. So I guess let's talk about some life stuff. As I mentioned, I did go to a fiber festival. I went to the Oregon Flock and Fiber Festival, which is held in Albany, Oregon. So I took Friday off last week. I don't know why. I just needed a mental day before getting up super early to go on Saturday morning. I left my house at about 5:30 in the morning. I drove east of me about an hour and a half, maybe an hour and 45 minutes. Met up with the person who invited me to go, and then she drove us the rest of the way to Albany, which was another 2 hours. So we get there, and it's in a really nice venue. We actually got there like 45 minutes early, which I love to be early, so not mad about that at all. But it meant we had to sit around and wait, which is fine. We had enough to talk about. So once we got in, what we noticed was that there was more spinning fiber by far than yarn, and she was specifically looking for yarn because she's not a spinner. I obviously do both, although I am more of a knitter than I am a spinner these days. But we did find some fun stuff. So let me show you. I didn't buy any yarn, if you can believe that. I bought one braid of fiber, and it is very Christmassy. So my goal with this, I would love to spin up a 2-ply and this be the color work for the jingle sweater. I am 100% inspired by a sweater that Rachel from Wool and Spinning made. Hers had more of this kind of blue color in it. And I'm a little bit worried with how much white is in this because I would want white to be my background color. But we'll just have to see what it looks like when it's yarn. This was a base that I've been wanting to try for a long time, and I found it at the Curly Q's booth. This is a yarn that I have, or I guess not a yarn, not even a fiber, but this is a company that I have bought from before at this festival. And this one is a Merino bamboo blend. That is why I wanted to try it, because I have never tried a Merino bamboo. Sometimes they call it panda top, and I've just really been wanting to try that. I don't know if I'm going to like it because Merino is not my favorite fiber to spin. I find it to be very slippery, and bamboo is kind of like silk, and it is probably also going to be very slippery. So I don't know how that's going to work out, but again, I wanted to try it. I only got one. I was so tempted to buy a whole sweater's quantity, but I was smarter. We'll try one first. If I want to do that, I can always go again next year. So I got that. And the other purchase that I made is very exciting. I saw this in the booth, and I think the first time I walked by, I gave it a spin, and then we walked by another time and I just kind of eyed it. It was still there. And then the third time I went back and I spun every single support spindle that this maker had. And being handmade, being hand-blown glass, I can't say it, hand-blown glass, they are all just a bit different. And I would imagine being glass, it probably is hard to balance it properly. So they all, like, some had more of a wobble, some spun faster, some spun slower, but the little bowl matches. And this one just was like magic compared to the other ones. For me, I just knew this was the one. So it was a bit of a splurge, but I just thought it was so beautiful. I asked her, and she was not a spinner. I should tell you who her is. I have her little card here. She is JM Studios. Her name is Jody McDougall. And there's her contact information there if you are interested. She told me she does not have spindles up on her site, but I believe you can message her and tell her that you're interested in one. She says essentially once she posts them, they just sell out so fast that she can't keep them on there. But if you tell her you're interested in that, I'm sure she will hook you up. So I asked her if this was like a Tockley. I think that's how you say it. But essentially that is a spindle specifically meant to spin cotton. She says she's not a spinner, but she has friends who are spinners, and they're the ones who encouraged her to make these. I think she makes a lot of beads out of glass. So she said she thought it was, but wasn't really sure. Thought that I could spin wool, but wasn't really sure. And there was, I mean, obviously I could have used some of my own wool, but there was no sample wool. So I just decided that was my splurge purchase for the trip, and I am spinning wool on it. I don't know, actually I didn't bring it in here. What I'm spinning is one of my little cupcakes, which I've shown you before. They're all some variation of wool. Some have silk. I think this one is all wool, but I don't know what kind of wool. What I find, and actually it works really well for me, is that, you know, I don't spin it for very long, just a few rotations, then I draft out. I'm not a continuous support spindle spinner yet. I don't know if I ever will be, but for my style, this is actually very helpful because in no time at all, it gets the twist that I need. So I'm not having to sit there and let it spin and spin and spin to build up the twist. Just a quick little spin and then draft out and do some more. And I don't know if that makes any sense if you're not a spinner, or especially a support spinner, but I am very happy. This was not my dream color, but I don't hate it. You know, I do love my neons. So it was about how it spun more than how it looked. So that is all that well, that's not completely true. I did buy a couple of not lip glosses, but like lip moisturizer things from, I didn't even, like I said, I didn't bring it in here. I can't remember the name of the company, but the last time I went, I bought some hand lotion bars from them and also a Diz for spinning. They had something really interesting I've never seen before. And actually, now that I'm thinking about it, it reminds me, I meant to look it up online, but he had something called, I guess, applying helper tool or something. It looked like a button, kind of. It was circular and it had several holes drilled in it. So it's just like a wooden circle with holes. And I believe the concept is that you put one ply through each of the holes. But here's my question. I don't quite understand how that would be helpful. So if you know how that would be helpful, I would love to know, because I couldn't wrap my head around it. He was busy. I didn't ask. But I'm thinking I could just do that with a button if it's something that is actually useful. His are prettier than a button, but I don't necessarily need that. And there's always next year. What else? Oh, yes. Let me tell you why I did not podcast last weekend. So we're at the Fiber Festival. I procrastinated on recording on Sunday, and I thought I can do it on Monday because I had Monday off. Well, that was all fine and dandy, except for that our dog Cody, he'd gone to the vet on Friday. He had some lesions on his face that were very pussy. I will save you the photos. You're just going to have to deal with my descriptions, which are probably bad enough. But anyway, he had this pus on both sides of his face, but one side was worse. He was already wearing a cone, so I was pretty certain that it wasn't him scratching it. And he kept doing like that head shake they do when their ears are bothering them. So initially we thought it was his ears until we noticed the face thing. So I still don't know what caused it. The vet thought it was scratching, but it said his ears were clear. So that didn't make any sense to me. And then they put him on antibiotics. So Friday, he's on the antibiotics. Saturday, he's still on them. But he's just not acting himself. He doesn't want to stand up. He appears to be in a lot of pain. In the mornings, impossible to get him to come out of his crate. So none of this behavior is normal. And then he didn't want to eat. And that is like a huge red flag with that dog, because he will eat everything and anything all the time. And so Sunday morning, we go to get him up and he will not get up. And I tell my husband, like, you need to go get him out of his crate, basically have to pull him out. And he is just fighting it tooth and nail. He does not want to come out. And this is a big dog. I'll put a picture up that doesn't look disgusting. You'll see what he is. He's a 10-year-old lab pit mix. And he's a big dog, like 90 plus pounds. So my husband goes in there. He's trying to get him out. Finally gets him out of the crate. And he seems to be favoring his rear left area. So my husband notices, and I see it too, that he had this, what we'd been told was a fatty growth on his rear, and it just was one of those lumps that old dogs get. Except for Sunday morning, for some reason, it had popped. And you could tell it was causing him a lot of pain. I don't know if it was a fatty tumor or if it was actually an abscess, which is kind of what the vet told us later. But we squeezed what we could out, and it was bleeding a lot. We had to put pressure on it to stop the bleeding. He ended up with a hole where you could just see like meat, not even skin, just meat like that big. So bigger than a silver dollar, pretty large. And he was clearly in a lot of pain. So luckily we had some pain pills from a previous thing. We were able to give him that, but weren't quite sure how much to give him. We didn't want to overdo it. But again, something is better than nothing. So we knew, like, the emergency vet, the closest one that we have is 2 hours away. And they're the only one within any kind of range. And so they're always very busy. So because we were able to get the bleeding to stop, we were like, well, we shouldn't take him to the emergency vet. We'll wait till Monday morning. So Monday morning, I get up at like 4 in the morning because the vet that we go to, and really the only vet we could have got into, is one that operates by essentially first come, first serve. Now, they don't open till after 8, but you have to be there in line from before the sun comes up in order to get yourself basically in line to get in to see the vet. Because if you're not there before they open, way before they open, then you're not getting in. So I get there around, is it 5:45, I think? And there's already 2 other people there. And I just was getting all kinds of nervousness and just not good feelings, because I was like, what's to stop other people from cutting in front of me? Just because I'm here early, like, I don't want to duke it out over a line, spot in line for the vet. So luckily everyone was pretty civil once the listing went up. In fact, the lady who was number 2 was actually asleep in her car. So I told the guy that was number 1, I was like, I'm just going to go wake her up. So luckily she didn't lose her spot, because that would suck. Although, tempting, because I just wanted to get my dog in. And also, Cody could not jump in the back of my car. I have a Toyota RAV4. It's not very high off the ground, and normally he gets up there no problem. Yeah, luckily he got his front feet up, because I told my husband, who had to go to work that night, he was not there in the morning with me, that I wasn't sure I was going to be able to get him in the car. So luckily, like I said, he put his front feet up. I was able to lift his back feet up. We got there. So we go in to see the vet. They get us in pretty early. And he's telling us, well, if it's this, like if it was an abscess, we'd give you the same medication he already has. If it's this other thing, we'd already give you the same medication he already has. I think the medication just hasn't fully kicked in yet. He's like, but we'll take him back. Maybe we'll do some blood work. We'll check his temperature. We'll do these other things. So they take him back and they come out. And this vet, you can just tell, is like eating his own words. He's like, oh crap. Cody had a fever of 105.6. Normal for a dog is 101. So very, very high temperature, because he was literally saying, what I see on his face and that thing on his rear, that would not be enough infection for that to raise his temperature. But here he is with a astronomical fever. So obviously, no wonder he didn't want to move. I don't want to move when I have a fever, and that's a very high fever. And I guess probably also why he didn't want to eat. So they ended up sending us home with, oh my gosh, so many medications. I will pop a picture in here of just half a day's medications, because he takes that many twice a day. And also some, oh my gosh, subcutaneous fluids. So luckily, unluckily, I was familiar with that, because with our dog Rudy, I had to give him subcutaneous fluids as well. It's not a complicated process, but gosh, I don't like doing it. That needle is huge. What you have to do, you have to pinch up some skin between their shoulder blades, kind of like back of their neck, and then you poke the needle in just through half of the skin, essentially. So the needle is just there in a void, and then you open it up and the liquid can start going in. And it's a way to get them fluids when they're not drinking. Plus they were able to put some kind of like anti-nausea stuff in that fluid. So yeah, I don't know. I'd like to say that he's on the mend. A couple days after doing the extra medication, he seemed to have more energy and this and that. But I'm still really struggling with him not wanting to come out of his crate. So much so that we had to close the crate. We took the bed out. It's just sitting in the garage, because that's where they sleep when we're not there with them. And yeah, it was just, I don't know. I don't even know. They said if we didn't see improvement within a couple days, we had to bring him back. I won't say we're not seeing some improvement. I just don't know if we're going to see all the improvement that we want to see. I don't know. Dogs getting old sucks. If you are new here, just a few months ago, I guess it's already been like March, I think. I had to put one of my little chihuahuas down. And actually this morning, Fiona, one of my other chihuahuas, is yelping in pain, and I have no idea why. So my husband was up with the dogs last night. I have to ask him if something happened, because she was literally sitting on my lap, not moving, nobody bothering her, and she just yelped out in pain. So I may be going to the vet again. I don't know. all that to say, I just really want my dogs to be healthy again. What else? I have been still reading. I finished The Plant Paradox, which was a book that was recommended to me by a coworker. And this is a book that's written by Dr. Stephen Gundry. That's a new name to me, but apparently he has been in the field of medicine for a very long time. He is or was a heart surgeon. He's getting older now, but through his research, he was able to determine what he believes is leading to a lot of disease in the United States. And through his research, he has concluded that lectins, which come from plants, that's why it's the plant paradox, are a large factor in a lot of diseases. So I have a lot of conflicting thoughts. I really don't want to give up the foods that I love, but if you don't know, I do have hypothyroidism, which affects your whole body. Your thyroid is located in your neck, but it literally supplies your body with all the hormones that you need to function. I've been on medication for that for over 10 years now, probably closer to 15. And basically, I just feel like I never have energy. I always feel very drained. I've cut a lot of bad foods out of my diet, and I've really cleaned up my diet. But one of the markers of disease is inflammation. And I wouldn't say like I noticed that I have inflammation, but when I was first going to see a naturopath years ago, she said one of the signs are if you look at your tongue and along the sides of your tongue, it looks like ridges. Essentially, it's where your teeth are pressing against your tongue. She says that is an easy way to see inflammation. And I always have that. It doesn't matter what I do, how much water I drink, how healthy I eat, what I don't eat, if I lose weight, if I don't, if I'm feeling good, if I don't feel good. Like that is always there. And so I've been reading more about that lately, and chronic inflammation is a real marker to diseases showing up later in life. So, heart disease, high blood pressure. I'm sure there's a long list. Of course, arthritis, all that is like inflammation based. So I think diabetes also, and I'm sure many, many more. So Dr. Gundry talks about implementing a special diet. Now you go through a 3-day detox and then a 6-week, pretty restrictive diet, and then you can start trying new things. He has had success in reversing all kinds of diseases, or if some couldn't be reversed, like very much changing the symptoms the person is feeling. So I think my husband read it too. He doesn't really have any medical problems, lucky him. But I think we are both going to try this out. But I won't be able to start until after at least October 15th. I can't remember the exact dates, but the second week of October, I am going out of town for training, which is really unfortunate because during that week, I've been waiting for over a year to see an endocrinologist. Because there just is only one in my area. And that appointment was during that 1 week. So I had to reschedule. Now I'm going in November. But I would just love it if I could see a real change in my thyroid numbers. If I could get off medication, that would be great. Truly, if I could just feel energy, feel like the sleep that I get actually gives me energy and I feel good, that would be the most amazing thing. So I think all that is worth giving up my favorite foods. My biggest worry, or I guess complaint, is I don't see how I could possibly eat out at a restaurant and do this. And so that's a real bummer because I do love eating out. But my health is more important. So I'm going to try and make that a priority, and I will definitely give you an update. As far as the book goes, actually for a scientific medical type book, it's very good. He seems to have a really great sense of humor and gets the information across in a kind of lighthearted way because obviously science and medical stuff can get really heavy. So I enjoyed the read. If at all any of that resonates with you, if you're dealing with some kind of chronic condition, I highly recommend you at least look into it, read it. I was able to get it as a free download through my library app, so obviously I don't get to keep it. That being said, because my husband and I want to implement this, he's got a couple of different cookbooks. He has a newer book called Gut Check, and he's coming out with a new book, which I don't know the release date. It's called the Brain Gut Paradox, or the Gut Brain Paradox, something like that. So I'm definitely going to read that too. But anyway, we ordered a bunch of used books, which we got one of them so far. It's a hardback of, I want to tell you the name of it. It's one of the cookbooks. I can't remember which one. It is brand new. Like, it doesn't even look like it's been flipped through. And we got it on Abe Books, which is a used book seller, for a fraction of the cost that I could get it new. And it is new. So that's always a nice resource if you're looking for used but in very good shape books. The other book that I'm still reading, I mentioned before, is The Handmaid's Tale. I'm about 65% of the way through, and I feel like the book is just now getting good. It's written in a very strange style. I can't even explain what that style is, because I guess I just don't know that stuff. But I find it a bit challenging to read. Obviously, the topic is challenging as well, but it's more the writing style. Reading it is difficult for me. For example, when they're talking about something that someone says, having a conversation, nothing's in quotes, so that just messes with me a little bit. But it's okay. I'm enjoying the read, and I'm definitely going to finish it. That's all that I've been reading lately. I think that's about it. Oh, one last thing I will tell you. Someone that watches my podcast was so nice. They reached out to me and said, I bought 2 of the Stephen West MCal kits. So they bought the yarn, and Stephen West always has a bunch of extras with that. And she asked if I would like those extras. So she sent them to me. So it's just a little description card, this very nice little needle gauge, which I'm always using these, both for the needle sizes and a gauge, which is nice. A shawl pin. And 3 fun little stickers. Crafty Queen, Go Dynamo, and Knitter. So yeah, thank you so much. You know who you are. I appreciate you watching, and thank you for thinking of me. That was just the most sweet thing anyone could do. Like, I don't know. I've never gotten a kit, and I just think it's very sweet. So thank you. Oh, one more thing. Man, I keep one more thing. I purchased this book. Now, I do not read that language. I believe it's Japanese. But let me tell you a little bit about this book. I saw this on Whiskey and Wool, Shannon. Man, I was not thinking of her name. Shannon's one of her latest episodes. I think it was a Cast On With Me episode, and she showed this book, and it is awesome. I have a trouble combining colors. I feel like I did really well with this sweater, but it just sung to me. But this book here has multiple 2-color combinations, 3-color combinations, 4-color combinations. I think it even goes up to 5 colors. Let's see here. Still on 4. Which, by the way, this uses 4 colors, so I might be able to find some inspiration in here. Maybe it only goes up to 4. For some reason, I thought there were 5. So to find your combinations, there is kind of a glossary of colors back here. All kinds of different colors. So for example, for this sweater here that I'm wearing, let's find, I think when I looked this up before, I think I looked for a pink that was similar to my pink and green. I was going to try and find a blue, but I don't seem to be having a lot of luck with that. So anyway, if we say that that pink is the closest to the pink in my sweater that I can find. And you look over here, it tells you the page numbers that you can find combinations for that color. And so let's see, I guess it's not page number, it's like combination number, about the same because they are chronological. So one of them is number 14. So we have that pretty lemon yellow and that pink, which is a great color combination. And let's go to one that has 3 colors. Let's see, 147. There it is. So it's like a mint, a brick, and pink, which is another great color combination. Anyway, I just thought this was so useful when she showed it. Yes, you can use a color wheel, but I struggle with that, especially because there's so many different shades of a color. And for some reason, the color wheel is challenging for me. So I thought this was really great. There is a volume 2. I don't know the difference between volume 2. You know what I'm noticing? There's not a lot of blue in here. There's like greens. So if I was going to pick one that's closest to my blue, it's probably like that. So, which interesting. I don't think that they're going to have, oh yeah, that's the same color that they paired in the one that I just showed, the like brick red, pink, and that color. So I guess that works out. Anyway, I just thought it was super interesting. So if you are challenged with colors, this might be the book for you. It's called A Dictionary of Color Combinations. I was able to find it on Amazon. It wasn't the cheapest book, especially for how big it is, but very worthwhile in my eyes because color combinations are hard. So I think that's it now. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate you all being here. If you have any comments or suggestions on anything that I talked about today, I would love to hear them. Thank you so much. I will talk to you soon. Bye.